Hello, resilient folks. Are you ready to grow today? Welcome back to Building Resilience, Love, Learn, and Lead or Let Go. I'm your host, Nagam Alsamari, and today we're diving into a critical component of resilience boundaries. Now, I've talked about this before a little bit, and today I want to delve a little more deep into this topic of boundaries. Have you ever felt overwhelmed, stretched too thin, or emotionally drained from always saying yes? I can tell you right away, yes, I'm there in all of these categories and I fit in. Strong personal boundaries are essential for protecting our mental and emotional well-being. And in this episode, we'll explore how to set and communicate and maintain these boundaries using the framework love, learn, lead, or let go. So if you struggle with guilt when saying no or finding yourself constantly going out of your way to say yes to something, let's start building these boundaries that empower us, starting with love. All right. And you know that when I say love, I am not just talking about loving other people, humanity, I'm also talking about yourself. And I always want to start there. We have to have self compassion because we have to have the strength to do anything. And the strength builds by taking care of ourselves, right? We're not being selfish. We are working to build our strength so that we can help others. And I want you to keep that in mind. So when you set boundaries, you are working towards that self compassion for yourself. When you say yes to everything and everyone, we leave very little room for our own needs. And these boundaries allow us to have protected time, to re energize, and be able to give back. So, here are some things I want you to keep in mind. First, recognize that when you set boundaries, you're not being selfish. You are re energizing and getting ready for not just helping yourself, but helping others as well. With drained energy, it's kind of hard to do anything else. And these boundaries help you get that energy back. Two, I want you to pay attention to the areas where you feel drained. When you kind of reflect on this, these often highlight where boundaries are needed. Where are you feeling drained? Where are you feeling overwhelmed? And start thinking about, okay, how can I set a boundary for myself so that I can start being more strategic about how I do things and what I do to gain some of that energy back? And three, create space for what truly matters. When you set these limits on what doesn't matter, what you're doing is that you're creating a much larger space for the things that really matter. Write down three things that drain your energy. What are the three things that drain your energy? And write them down. Then identify one boundary you can put in place this week to protect yourself. I don't want you to think, oh, I have so much that I feel drained with, that I'm overwhelmed with, that I'm constantly saying yes. There's a huge list. Let's not get overwhelmed with creating the list that is overwhelming you. So let's instead focus on three things that are draining you, maybe the top three, then only focus on one of them, and then set a boundary in place that you can do immediately. What is that? All right. Now let's move into the learn part of the framework. Identifying where the boundaries are needed. Our past experiences often um, they tell us where stronger boundaries are needed because once you take some time and look back at um, let's take this past week as an example. It's already passed. It's a bit, a little bit more fresh in our minds still than other things that happened way, before that. So let's focus on this week and take some time to reflect on what has been something maybe this past week that you felt, maybe pick a day of the week that you felt more overwhelmed than ever before. Look at your experience. Focus on that. Okay? When did you feel like you were taken advantage of or burnt out or even resentful? Because this is the problem with saying yes to everything is the more we say yes, the more we don't have boundaries and we just engage in everything that comes our way, you start becoming not just drained of energy, you get burned out, but you become resentful and it changes your emotional resilience. And that's not something we want to do. That's not something we want to get the point we want to get to. So before that happens, that's when we want to actually reflect and think back at these experiences and not just think about them, but think why you felt this drained, burned out, or resentful. These moments signal a lack of clear boundaries. Here's some questions I want you to ask yourself when you're reflecting. When have I felt overwhelmed because I didn't set a boundary? And I want you to say it in this way. And the reason for this is because when you're just saying, when have I felt overwhelmed by itself, just like that, you're going to think of a million different ways that you have felt overwhelmed. But when you set it, reframe the question in a way where you add that in there, your brain is going to start using the index up there and trying to search back to a time where you also have not set a boundary, and that's because you haven't been feeling your most strength. So the question is, when have I felt overwhelmed because I didn't set a boundary? Write that down. Number 2, where do I consistently feel drained or overcommitted? Where is that? Is it at home? Is it in the office, at work? Is it in classes? Is it in social gatherings? Is it in, other events? Where do you consistently feel drained or overcommitted? Or is it social media? That's something I just want to throw out on there. A lot of us spend a lot of time on social media and, for one reason or another, and you feel consistently drained. Maybe that's a place you need to start and kind of get some of your time back. Where do you consistently feel drained or overcommit? That gives you a point where you can go back and think and reflect on. And again, start thinking, okay, what boundaries can I set? What did I do in this particular location that made me feel this way? And why? And how can I set a boundary so that I don't feel this way all the time? All right. And question 3, what lessons have past experiences taught me about honoring my limits? And I want to throw another question here. When have you actually set boundaries for yourself and it's worked? Bring out that positive moment that it actually worked for you and reflect on it. And then start going back into your journal and see all these questions. Answer the questions. Where have you felt mostly drained or overcommitted? When have you felt overwhelmed because you haven't set boundaries? What lessons from your past have it helped you um, teach you to honor your or limits? And what positive experience where you have actually set limits that you can reflect back on and learn from? So your action step here is reflect on that past situation where you had lack of boundaries that affected your well-being, where you felt completely overwhelmed and drained and burnt out, and then ask yourself, what would I have done differently? What could I have done differently in that moment? Ooh, I love that. Anna, thanks for joining. I usually feel drained by tasks and activities that do not use my strength. Ooh, I love this. That's a great comment. Um, we don't often think about that. We have a toolkit or a reservoir of our strengths, of things that we use on a daily basis, constant basis, right? And we want to actually focus on our strengths. Not a lot of times we actually get to, though, and that's very unfortunate. It could be because maybe we get hired for a job where are not actually using the talents that we have, or the expertise that we have, or the strengths that we bring to the table, and that is completely draining. So that's a very good point. The question is, where can you what other place can you actually use your strength to bring out that passion back, and not feel this drain and burnt out? And what can you do about it? So it doesn't have to be just in the workplace. Think of multiple different places. I mean, I know a lot of different people who participate in different clubs, or volunteering organizations that can actually shine with and bring their talents and strengths to the table, and it helps them bring back that energy back up. Great comment. Great for reflection. All right. And now let's move on to lead, in down in the framework, where love, learn, and lead, because we want to make sure that whatever we're doing, whatever we're working on, building ourselves isn't just for us. We are also sharing. We are also participating in the learning community. So having boundaries is one thing. Communicating them to others, that's another thing. Because a lot of time, if we have boundaries but really not good at communicating, period, we may struggle to get that boundary out to others. They may not see it at all. A major part of leadership is advocating for yourself, of course, while remaining firm yet respectful. So how do you communicate boundaries effectively? Now, I want to make one point clear before I delve into the 3 points here. When you communicate boundaries to others, you're also teaching, not just, oh, these are my boundaries, but you're teaching others. You're leading by example. Those other people around you who are maybe feeling drained and tired and whelmed, overworked, they'll start looking at your example and hopefully learning from your example. And that's the whole point of lead. And this is why we always focus on not just helping grow yourself, but helping grow others. So point one, in how to actually communicate your boundaries effectively, use clear and direct language. Somebody asks you to do something, you're already working on something, and you get another request to do something that may throw you off point. If you're shy, and if you don't want to say no, or is it really, if it's really hard for you to say no, you end up saying, um sure, I'll work on it, I'll give it a try. And you take the actual work, or you take the message, or you answer the email, and then what ends up happening is that you become responsible for another thing that you just get added to your list of to-dos. What you could do is actually be direct and say, I will not be able to take that on right now. Clear and simple. I will not be able to take that on right now. because you already have a list of things that you need to finish. They're on your calendar, they take precedence, and you protect yourself and your mental health by actually um, focusing on the things that are already in your priority list instead of adding another thing to the priority list. And then you paralyze yourself. So instead, you use a clear and direct language. I will not be able to take that on right now. Second, you can set the expectations up front. You can actually share your availability. I'm available during these hours. Somebody comes up to you while you're doing something or stops you while you're going somewhere, and that was something that I went through a lot. I would find myself going from point A to point B, trying to, complete a task in point B, being stopped 3 different times, asked for 5 different things, and that derails my thinking, and I end up forgetting where I was going and what I want to do. So what did I do? I started when somebody stops me, I start looking at my phone. I open up my calendar and I look at my available hours and I share that. You know what? I'm going to be available at 12 p.m. How about you come by to my office at that time, or you give me a call at that time? Or if somebody asks a long question that I know that I will not remember, I ask for an email instead. Instead of me trying to take everything down real quickly and completely forgetting where I was going and what I was going to do, because that was a priority a few seconds ago before everybody else stops me. So instead, share your availability and say, I'll be available during this time and that time, and then we can discuss this then. It's important that we help each other out, but within your own boundaries. And 3, be firm but kind. I appreciate the opportunity, but I need to focus on other commitments. It's not unkind. It's not that you're not being helpful, but you already have a set of commitments on your plate that you want to do your most your best on. And you're unfortunately, if you take on more responsibility, what's going to happen to the ones that you already have in your plate? You will not do your best on them. So we don't want that. You already have responsibilities. What is your action step here? What I want you to do is practice saying no without saying no. You don't have to say the actual word no. Practice saying no to one non essential request this coming week. You've got a coming week. We're starting tomorrow on Monday. Practice saying no and observe how it impacts your stress levels. It might feel like really awkward at first if you have never done this before, but do it this week and try it again next week. And then look at how you're feeling. Reflect back on your stress levels. But again, you don't have to say no by actually saying the word no, N-O. You can actually use other things, like sharing your availability, or are you able to take it on right now or not? Or when can you take it on? I'll be free by the end of the week and then I can take a look. Something like that without saying no. And finally, letting go. Most of the time, and I said that you may feel awkward if you say no, is because we may feel guilt for not actually helping everyone that asks us for help, or not being able to fulfill something or another. Or maybe the list that we already have on our plate isn't, we're not doing it justice, and therefore we feel guilty. So by practicing the love, learn, and lead, what you're doing is you're helping take off that mental load that it will release that feeling of guilt. And it's guilt is it is one of the biggest obstacles in maintaining boundaries. We feel guilty and therefore we jump up to help. And that's why we say yes to everything, right? So what do? We feel obligated to accommodate others. even sometimes at our own expense. But I want you to remember this. Every yes to something, every yes to something misaligned is a no to something meaningful. If you're doing something that is out there, doesn't fit with your priorities or your values, and where you could be actually prioritizing your time to something that is more meaningful. Think about it this way. Every yes to something misaligned is a no to something meaningful. So how do you release that feeling of guilt and stay firm in your boundaries? Remind yourself that you're taking care of your needs. It actually enables you to show up stronger for others. And then replace that feeling of guilt with gratitude. I am grateful for the ability to protect my energy. And again, you're protecting your energy because you need that energy to help others. And without it, you're feeling completely drained and tired and just not mentally there. And it's really, you're no good to other people. So you have to protect that mental energy. I am grateful for the ability to protect my energy. Repeat that after me. I am grateful for the ability to protect my energy. And that is why I set boundaries. When you put it in this way, it makes more sense to you. It actually resonates more than if, oh, I should have helped. I feel so bad for not. Don't start your sentences this way. Start with, I am grateful for the ability to protect my energy and therefore will set boundaries. Okay, and 3, let go of the fear of disappointing others. Everyone is going to be disappointed at some time, no matter what. So let that feeling of disappointment go. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You need the energy to help others. And so, without that energy, you won't be able to give anything out there. And, you know, people are going to be disappointed in one point or point or another. And we're not here to, please everyone and make everybody like us. That's not the point. Point of service is help. And you can't help if you're not being helped. Okay. So, your action step, the next time you feel guilty for setting a boundary, reframe it as an act of self compassion and leadership. You are a confident leader when you actually set boundaries. A lot of leaders succeed in what they do in their positions because they have the ability to recognize when they can and cannot do something and are very great are setting boundaries and defining what these boundaries and communicating them out to people. Don't forget that's a really important component. Once you know what these boundaries are, once you figure out where you're going to set them, you have to be able to directly communicate them. Boundaries are one of the foundations of a resilient, balanced life. They help us honor our energy, learn from past experiences, communicate with confidence, and let go of guilt. When we establish clear limits, we create space for what truly matters. If we say yes to everything, then what is really important here? What is a priority item? We can't recognize that anymore because everything is important. So instead, filter what takes priority, what is more important than another, and then focus on those as opposed to saying yes to everything. Before you go, comment below what is one boundary you are committing to this week. Don't wait until January for your New Year's resilience. or not resilience, resolution. I talk about resilience all the time, that it's the word that I say often. So don't wait until New Year's resolution. Resolutions don't need to be, and at the beginning of the new year. They could be at any time. This week is a new beginning. Monday brings a new beginning. What is one boundary that you're committed to this week? Follow me at Lead with Imkan for more daily insights on resilience and leadership. We need resilience in our life. We need it in our professional, in the professional setting, for a social setting. We need it to help us stay strong, but also learn from past experiences and move forward successfully. So, if you are passionate about any of those things, follow me on Lead with Imkan with these insights on resilience. Explore more on imcanleadership.com. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about purpose in pain. How do we find meaningful in adversity? We face a lot of pain in our life. In next episode, we're going to discuss how challenges can shape our purpose and resilience. Don't miss it. And until next time, keep leading with resilience and stay resilient. Bye.